decades ago? Why can't, because these authorities which were created by the government, they were created on the principle of no profit, no loss basis. Why are they looking to make profit on those lands?
You think the government is looking, is the government looking to make profit on that land?
Yes, because they try to sell through auction and they try to give it to the highest bidder. That jacks up the prices. And then these prices become totally unaffordable even for lower.
Okay, hold your thought there, Mr. Raheja.
As well as LIG.
Very important point. Ashok Khurana, I know you're at the end of the panel, but answer that. Why is the government auctioning and trying to make money out of something which is meant for the economically weaker sections?
No, I will give you one first part, affordable housing. What I have defined and studied as an individual, affordable housing rate is to be different from region to region. That's why I have worked out on my own. Affordable in this context means that the monthly cost incurred as a repayment of a 25-year loan period does not exceed the average monthly rent for the region. But the man who is paying a monthly rent of say X, he continues paying for 25 years and he gets back that house. That is affordable. That's an affordable definition. Now coming to the cost part, we are no way making profit. DDA till date has not auctioned any flat. It is by the lottery system. We are earning money, yes, earning money by selling the commercial properties. That's being utilized for the providing community services. Where in this world or India, community services are being provided free of cost by any other development authority? DDA is providing.
All right. So I think maybe the question shouldn't have been aimed at you. We really definitely should have had Mr. Ajay Makhan here amidst us to answer that question. But Mr. Verma, I mean, you've been associated with the industry for a long time. Yes, if we have to move the spectrum of affordable for the economically weaker to middle income India, and there is the largest gap of housing in that sector, how are we going to do it? Starting with land, which is just not available, and if available, it is so expensive.
I would like to put the whole issue of affordable housing in the larger context of urbanization. And as all of us know, urbanization has its own dynamics, and it plays out and manifests itself in different ways. So it does require, we have to have both short-term approach, where we need to arrive at the result very quickly, and also the long-term approach. And both have to happen simultaneously. It shouldn't be in a sequenced manner. For a longer-term approach, we need to look at it very proactively, which will include issues like inclusionary regulations, inclusionary zoning, inclusionary bylaws, which would essentially mean that as a byproduct of urbanization, the people who move into areas and come to the urban centers are able to find affordable housing at their workplaces. And that's something which the government and the private sector have to work towards. I know and we know that currently, I mean, we are focusing on when we're talking about affordable housing. I agree with Mr. Raheja that it's not really the high income group, it's the middle income group, and also it's the EWS and the LIG.
Right.
And the government and the private sector have their respective roles for affording solutions to the EWS, LIG and the middle income group. And in this case, what I feel is that there is competing demand on land and capital. And these need to be addressed. Competing demand on land, which would essentially mean that demand on land from different sectors, and land is not elastic.
Mr. Verma, you've summed it up, sir. You said competing interest on land and resources,
competing
right?
demand. Yes,
competing
on land
demand.
and resources.
Now,
and
when you're talking about competing, and that's what exactly Anuj said, if I could use that same land to build a luxury apartment, why would I build it for LIG and economically weaker sections? So how do you get developers to do it?
Yeah, we need to find the right business model, and we need to have the whole ecosystem developed for this purpose. And when I look, when I call it the right business model, essentially it does take into account the government schemes which are supported through subsidies, and that's for EWS and LIG, and where the financing institutions come in. So you have to look at it very holistically, where you have the stakeholders in the financial sector as well as in the construction sector coming together and implementing the programs of the government through private sector participation.
Right.
So you have the public-private partnership in terms of construction. You have the government stakeholding in policy making on a longer-term measure, and you have the financing institutions coming in to combine efficiently with both the government in implementation of the government schemes as well as in implementation of the market-oriented schemes, which also would need to be affordable. There is certainly some kind of a bottlenecking at the regulatory space, and to a certain extent in the policy space. The regulatory space, I would think there has.
So you're letting go the developers. You're letting them off the hook, right?
No, not at all, not at all. In the regulatory space, everybody has a stakeholding in this, and the government as well as the private builders, they have very strong potentials, in fact, to contribute to affordable housing. And we are essentially looking at how the market forces can be combined very efficiently with government intervention.
Okay. So let's talk about the financing part. Mr. Chaudhary, being part of HUDCO, you should basically outline for us how comfortable are financiers to actually look at projects in affordable segment?
In affordable housing, two things, or in anything, 2-3 things are very important. One is the cost of land. Second thing is the cost of construction. So cost of land depends on the location of the land. Higher the cost of the land, higher the distribution on the per unit cost of the house. And financing is also very, very important in this sector, because affordability comes when you get a cheaper finance as a developer as well as to the individual buyer, both. HUDCO in this sector, in the mass housing sector where the maximum shortage is there, as already stated by our chairman in the earlier session, is funding at a rate of 8.25%, where the maximum shortages of 95% exist in the country. But at the same time, our funding...
Is there enough supply?
Yeah?
Is there enough supply of houses? I mean, this is just a pure question. Pardon me for my ignorance, but you're saying 8.25%, you're making the finance available. Are there enough buyers? Are there enough homes to buy?
No, homes will not come. I said there are two factors basically. One is the cost of land, because land prices are so high. Earlier, Mr. Raheja was pointing out that land is being auctioned. It's true. In Delhi, the land was acquired and kept on hold. DDA acquired so much of land that they could not develop. Both the roles were taken by DDA as a development as well as holding of land.
Absolutely.
So there were slums came up on those lands. They were occupied by slums. So planning authority need not to be a development business. Development has to be left to the private parties. Government has to do policy making availability of cheap land, regulatory issues and finances to both individuals as well as developers. In this sector, HUDCO has already done a lot of job and provided finances to more than 1.5 crore houses in India since its inception. And our main focus is on mass housing and these things. That's all.
All right, so 8.25.